to those of you that are here or watching on TV or the computer. It's good to have you either way. I want to start with some trivia this morning, and it's COVID trivia. Nationally, about 58% of adults have at least received one dose of the vaccine. Vermont is the state that has the most vaccinations per capita, and they're at 74.5% of all adults having at least one dose. Every state in the Northeast has given at least one dose to at least 60% of adult residents. Now let's come down to the South. Mississippi is the least vaccinated state, with 41.5% of adults having at least one dose. And every state bordering Mississippi, including Tennessee, has vaccinated less than half of its adult residents. So just something about our region, I guess, that's not catching on too well. The vaccine has now been approved for minors between 12 and 15 years old, so hopefully parents will be getting their kids vaccinated as well, and that should help. In Tennessee, the 7-day average of new cases is now at 732 per day for the state. At January 1, it was nearly 4,500. And on December 20th, just 10 days before that, it was 9,000. So it's gone from an average of 9,000 per day down to about 732 in about 5 months. In Tennessee, the 7-day average of deaths is now at 10, and in early February, it peaked at 133. Most of this improvement is attributed to the vaccine. In Shelby County, I think we have about, a third that are fully vaccinated, but I guess one bright side is that anyone that had COVID also has some antibodies in them. So between the vaccine and the antibodies from having had the disease, they believe that maybe 60 to 70% of the Shelby County residents are protected to some degree against COVID, and that's pretty good. I like the vaccine route better than the illness route of getting there. The 7-day average of new cases now at 109. On January 2nd, it was 777. And over the last 7 days in Shelby County, we've averaged one death per day. In early February, we were at 15 to 17 deaths per day. So things are a lot better. The positivity rate is still about 5.3%, and that hadn't changed in 3 or 4 weeks. When you look at how quickly this can change, just keep in mind that now things are looking really good. In a month, it could swing and go the other way. But the good news is, another piece of good news, is that the fourth surge that had been feared for about this time of year did not happen. So we're fortunate to have avoided that. Here at the Village, we're still testing employees. Currently, we're doing it weekly. We are considering whether to go to monthly for those that are fully vaccinated. It would certainly be allowable in independent living, and the positivity rate needs to get a little lower in the area before we can do it in skilled nursing. But we could do it now in independent living. Last week in our testing, we had one positive among employees. We tested yesterday but haven't gotten any results back. I had told you before that the employee vaccination rate was at 75%, which was unheard of in any healthcare organization, and as of a couple of days ago, it's up to 84% for employees, and that's really good. Now that will go up and down, as we have turnover, but it's very good. We're pleased with that and still trying to get the rest of them vaccinated. So we haven't given up yet. As always, if you feel that you have symptoms, stay home, let us know, we'll get you tested, and just don't get a false sense of security yet, please. Activities, well, that Cinco de Mayo party last week was really fun. Everyone enjoyed that so much. I heard from one person that didn't like Mexican food and they didn't come. And I said, okay, next time we're going to have hamburgers, and that'll satisfy that group as well. But it was a lot of fun, and even more so than the food was just everybody getting back together and having a good time. So thanks for coming to that. I didn't realize, too, that we had such fun-loving kitchen staff. For those of you that were there, you know, we had one lady from the kitchen that wore a traditional Mexican party dress, and she was out twirling around, and we had a cook that was dancing, and it was some entertainment that I hadn't counted on, but that was a lot of fun. I'm also sorry I missed the magic show Friday night. I was told that was one of the best things that we had had in a long time. This Friday night, we have the Just Friends Band that will be playing, and I'm a little nervous because some of the entertainment has been so good that I'm afraid that we can't keep beating ourselves each time and getting better. So, but if it just stays the same, I think we'll be doing well. Zumba Gold is canceled this week because Chris is on vacation, but she will be back next week. Remember that many of the events are still on Channel 991 if you have Comcast, or Internet Live Stream if you don't. And many of the events are also archived where you can watch them later. I know that there's new health and safety guidelines coming out in the county and the nation, and I want to tell you what that's going to mean to us here at the village. First, let me mention that the changes right now are for independent living only. The skilled nursing areas and other areas of health care have significantly more regulations that we have to follow. We get in big trouble if we don't. So there's not anything else that's going to change right now in health care, although when CMS does make changes, we will evaluate those and change what we need to do to comply with what they tell us to do. For those of you that have spouses in health care and you live in independent living, keep in mind that the regulations apply to these spouses also. It's any visitor going into skilled nursing or assisted living that we have to follow. One example is wearing masks while you're there. You know, we have to enforce that because it's very bad on the village if we get in trouble with CMS or the state of Tennessee. In terms of our restrictions here at the village, I have always said that I avoid political, religious, or any other considerations on prevention protocols or vaccinations. Everyone has their beliefs, and that's fine, but I don't let that mandate what we do here. We just look at only the health and safety of our residents and staff. So in making decisions on COVID protocols here, we start with CDC guidelines. You know, it's hard to claim that I would know more than the CDC does about things, even though we may not all agree with them. But that is the foundation that we use, along with regulations of the state of Tennessee and Shelby County Health Department. I also consult with local health experts. Some of those are members of our board of directors, and they are very helpful in putting in their opinions, and we respect that, as well as that of our medical director, Dr. Rahal. I consult with him often. So there's a lot of people that go into setting the protocols that we have. Now, I've gotten, I bet, a dozen copies of newspaper clippings, usually anonymously, and someone would highlight, the CDC says you can go do this and that. And yes, they do, but what the news doesn't tell you, and they don't print, just because it's too much to do so, is that the CDC has additional guidelines and recommendations for retirement communities or other places like this where a lot of people tend to be together. I am very familiar with everything the CDC has put out, and just know all of these other nuances, so we consider all of those as well. The state of Tennessee has now let its regulations expire, really. They have moved the responsibility for health from being a mandate to being the responsibility of the citizens. Shelby County Health Department is going to issue a new health care mandate today. I hadn't seen it by the time I left. They may have already done it. A lot of things they do at about 10 o'clock or so, so it may already be out there. But the mandate that they issue is expected to say that they recommend, highly recommend, I believe, the use of face masks when out in public, but they are no longer going to require it. And then there will be some other changes that they are going to make, I think, dealing with restaurants and what have you. But that's the change that's expected to come out today. So based on all of these factors and considerations, as well as the fact that we are 100% vaccinated among residents and highly vaccinated among staff, we're going to be making some changes. And some residents will be ecstatic, others will not, which has sort of been that way from day one, really, and nothing there will change. But we are doing what we believe is reasonable and appropriate in light of all of these considerations. So the things that are going to change are that residents may now determine the safety protocols to be followed inside their apartment or villa, inside your home. And that's not really changed over the last few days. I just wanted to emphasize that within your apartment or within your villa, you decide what you're comfortable with and what's safe. Now, you may be comfortable with everybody being this close and not having any face mask, but just keep in mind that most people that have gotten it from family members. So we still need to be careful. The big change is that the village will strongly encourage residents to wear a face mask in common areas around groups especially. And common areas is anything outside the door to your apartment or villa. But you are not required to do so. If residents now want to go around the campus without a face mask, they can do that. They need to make their own decision and their own judgment as to the risk that not wearing a face mask might have on your health and safety, and you can make that decision. Now, I'm always getting comments like, we don't really know if this person is vaccinated or that one is. We cannot tell you. There are privacy rules on especially medical issues, but also any matters related to residents. I cannot go around telling, be careful with this person because they're not vaccinated. And the same really for employees. We're not allowed to breach that health regulation that says we have to keep things private that we know. Most things about employees' health we do not know and we're not entitled to ask. And if we do find out, we can't share it. So we are not able to do that. But you are free to talk with your friends and your families and decide what you are comfortable doing. Employees will still have to wear face masks while in common areas and around residents. The exceptions would be if we're in a private office and we are comfortable that those in the meeting are fully vaccinated and we're otherwise careful. Employees may have their mask off, but in the common areas and around residents in general, we will still wear our masks, including me. And we will also continue within meetings and events to socially distance to some extent. Ideally, it's 6 feet apart, and that's our benchmark, but depending on all the circumstances, it might be a little more or a little less, but we will still continue that for a while. There's no change in the visitor policy at this time. Any visitors or contractors or vendors that are inside in common areas need to wear a face mask. Visitors are still not permitted in activities and events and the dining facilities just yet. We will change that soon, but for now, let's keep it as it is. So the big change right now is that if you want to go around without your mask on, that's your decision, and you won't hear a word from me, I don't think. But anyway, you can certainly do that, and it's now your decision. And if you want to have a mask burning ceremony, don't do it in your apartment. That's against fire regulations. So please don't go starting fires with them. And that's pretty much it on that. When the regulations come out, the modification from the county, we'll be reviewing that and see if there's anything else that applies to us here. But as of right now, that's the big thing that I know of is the change in the mask policy. Let's see, that's pretty much it, except for birthdays, and let me go over those with you for this week. Yesterday was Sylvia Hanna. Tomorrow, Myrna Keeney and Jack Williams. And Saturday is Ann Harris. So happy birthday to these folks, and I hope you have a great day. I am going to take some time off starting middle of next week, so we're not going to have this talk next Wednesday. And then the following Wednesday, on the 26th, I will be back, but just barely, and probably won't have even had time to catch my breath. So we're not going to have this talk that week either. I will do a letter the week after the 26th, towards the end of that week, and we'll update you on anything that I would have said in this talk. And then on June 2nd, Wednesday, June 2nd, in a couple of weeks, we'll be back in here on schedule. With that said, are there any questions? Okay. Any celebrations about the masks? How do y'all feel about that? We got some applause, we got a shrug or two, and that's about what I would expect. As I said, some will be ecstatic and some not, but we're doing what we think is best for the village as a whole, which is what we always try to do. And sometimes that's what any of us individually want, and sometimes it's not. But that's really our only consideration, is the village as a whole. So thank you. Have a great day and a great week here.